Looking forward to a great weekend. Excited about a packed house, and there is one request before you go into the stadium. We'd like to have everybody in their seats by 20 minutes before, but the Autism Society of North Carolina has a tent in Tar Heel Town with staff members to answer questions and provide resources. And we'd like for you to go by and talk to them in honor of the Bateman family with Jay and Heather and their wonderful son, CJ, who comes out to practice a lot. So Sally and I have a niece with autism. So if you get a chance, please go by and just look at anything that you could do for research or just education moving forward. And that would be great. Our practice has been really good. Hopefully our team's getting better. We need to build on what we did last week defensively. We had most of the moments at Georgia Tech were great, but those 5 plays killed us. Last week we had those 3 or 4 runs that squirted out early with Durant, and then we adjusted to it and pretty much shut them down for the rest of the day. And now can they do it 2 weeks in a row against a talented team? That's the big question mark. Kicking game, we're getting closer. Where field position was huge last week, and we blocked a couple of kicks. We've returned some kicks. Can we win a game on special teams at some point here? And that's what we need to do. And offensively, we've just got to be consistent. We said we've been big play, bad play, and we need a consistent running game. And then when you can run the ball, the rest of it works. And if everybody's at the line of scrimmage, like there were sometime last week with you, throw it and score. But at some point during the game, you're going to have to run the ball, and that's important. Mike Norvell, I covered his games when I was with ESPN at Memphis. He did a tremendous job there. If you look at their season, their overtime with Notre Dame, and like us, they had a tough opener. And then Jacksonville State, they didn't play as well as they wanted to, still had the game won, came down to a last play that they allowed a touchdown. Went to Wake Forest and had a tough week on the road, came back, and Louisville jumped on them, and then they came back and had a chance to win late. So they're really fighting back and getting more spirit. And then last week they won against Syracuse. So they've been in every game with a chance to win in the fourth quarter. So they could just as well be 4-1 as they are 1-4. And they took 13 transfers last year, so they know the transfer portal and they know how to do it. There's a lot of great players that came in that are helping them. And also they have a top 10 recruiting class with all services right now. I think some are as high as 7. So he's doing a really good job. Offensively, they returned 10 of 11 starters. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen that ran up and down the field against us last year, I think it's 241 yards rushing. They scored 21 points in the last 5 minutes of the first half. And we're down 31-7 at halftime. They blocked a punt against us last year and just played and coached much better than we did. Jordan Travis is the same quarterback that ran up and down the field against us last year. He can run. We've had trouble with running quarterbacks. And then you look at Corbett and Ward, and they're probably the best combination of running backs that we have seen, and one of the best in the country. Defensively, they're one of the best in the country at forcing sacks and tackles for loss, and that's been our nemesis all year. And you've got Jermaine Johnson that transferred in from Georgia, who's a great player at defensive end. Jamie Robertson, I think he came in from South Carolina, and he's one of their best players at nickel. And then Robert Cooper's 335 pounds, and he'll be in the middle of that line where we've had some trouble. So it's the most athletic defense we've played. And as I said, the things that they're doing so well have been things that we've had trouble with. So this will be a great test for us to see if we can improve in some of those areas. And lastly, we said we're honoring Coach Bowden at this game. Coach Bowden was a mentor to me. Just a couple of quick stories. I called him once, and we lost a few straight games to Oklahoma. And I said, Coach, you got Florida. How do you beat your rival? I mean, what do you do? And he said, oh, Coach, when you get good enough and you're tired of hearing it, you'll beat them. And the down home sense of humor, but like Coach Royal, he could take complicated things and make them really simple. I'm thinking he's going to give me a 30-minute speech on this stuff, and he was right. We got tired of hearing it. We were good enough, and then we beat them to start it back over. And then some of you have heard this one, but we're here the first year, and we're really bad. And they put Florida State in the league. I thought they were going to wait 5 years so we'd have a chance to get better, but they didn't. They put them in the next year, and we're bad, and they're really good. They went 14 years where they were in the top 4 in the country. So everybody's talking about my record against them. Check everybody else's too. Nobody was beating them. That first year he comes out and we're 1-7, and he hugged my neck and he said, "Hey, boy, you're doing this perfect. Man, you're setting that standard low. They're mad at me now if we don't score enough points or if we don't play a good enough first quarter. You got it perfect. You just keep doing what you're doing. You'll be fine." Next year we go down there to play them, and we're 0-7. And he said, "Hey, Bud, you may need to pick it up a little bit. Last year was fine, but they're going to get tired of you losing this many." And I thought, as we're getting ready to play a top 4 team, he's telling me to pick it up. So, and then the last one is the last year we played here in 97. We had 2 chances to beat them out of the 9 that they beat us. The rest of them, we had no chance. But we had 1 chance down there in the rain where the game was close at the end, and we got a horrible call on the screen at the end. And then our last year here was we were 4 and they were 1, and we couldn't block them. They were the best defense I'd ever seen. They beat us 20-3, but his back was hurting at that time. He had a little stool he sat on during the games. And I said, "Coach, my goal for this game is to get you off that stool." He says, "Not getting off that stool, boy. I'm gonna be on that stool for the whole game, so you can't get me off that stool." And we didn't. So bless Coach Bowden. We miss him. And want to thank he and his family for all they've given to so many, and especially to college football. It wouldn't be the same without him, and Florida State sure wouldn't have the history that they've had without him. Questions?
All right, our first question will come from Michael Coe. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Coach, what differences have you seen between how the team prepared for the Florida State game last season versus how you're preparing for the Florida State game this season?
Michael, I thought we prepared well last year. I know we had just become 5th in the country, and half of the college football teams weren't playing, so it wasn't fair. We weren't the 5th best team in the country, and I knew that, and I had to be careful telling them, "You're not the 5th best team in the country, so don't read all that stuff," but then not telling them you're not very good. I mean, it was a fine line. And if you go back and study us, we haven't won many games after 6 o'clock on the road. I mean, Virginia last year, we lose at night. Florida State, we lose at night. Georgia Tech this year, we lose at night. Virginia Tech, we lose at night. So we continue to try to tweak what we're doing all day on those road trips, but it's harder to win on the road than it is at home. But we're just trying to play, Michael. I've told our guys, quit worrying about rankings, what people are saying about you. Quit. You got to enjoy the journey. You got to play. Be confident and give us your best. Compete, and that's all I want. I want you to play as hard as you can and give us the best you've got. And if that's not good enough, we'll run out of time and go to the next game. But that's all I want. And we've done that all but 2 games. And in the 2 games we didn't do that, where we turned the ball over, we got beat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And it's really more about us than Florida State. We got to get us fixed.
Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, appreciate what you're doing about autism. My daughter has autism, so I'm certainly awareness is very, very important because it's very misunderstood by a lot of people. As far as your team goes, this week at practice, how have things gone at the center position? And after Caden Baker got, I think it was about 19 reps, how did you see that help escalate his improvement at that position since it's so new to him?
Andrew, first, good luck with your daughter.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with me and us. Caden did a good job. We put him in a very unfair position when he hadn't ever played that position in a game and didn't get to play much in practice. So he's taken a lot of snaps this week, excuse me, in practice, and he'll just get better and better. And we still have him working at left tackle, or at tackle, but at the same time, We want him to start working toward the future at center. And Q came in and did a good job last week after the early part of the game, and we weren't sure he was going to play. We were going to try not to play Q last week, in fact. But he's done a good job this week, and he'll start at center for us.
You said at the outset that you've had a good week of practice this week. What kind of stands out that makes it a good week of practice, given the way the season is unfolded through 5 weeks?
When you look at where we are going into the midseason, they've got midterms, and it could be a lag. And the guys have had energy. They have really competed with each other. They've had fun. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm seeing. We're starting to practice to a level every day. And we got a lot of young guys that are looking better. And we have told the older guys that if you don't play consistently well, these younger guys are getting a lot of practice. We'll put them in. So that's just something you got to understand. We want you to play well. But you've had your chance now. If you don't get it done, we're going to move forward with some other guys. So this will be a big week for some people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, next up is Greg Barnes.
Hey, Mack, you've referenced the Florida State game from last year throughout the offseason, more so than any other game, I think, since you've been back. Is that the kind of game, outcome-wise, that you can really lean on as a teaching tool for these kids as you're building this program?
Greg, it is. We talk about it and the Virginia game. And if you look at this one, block punt on the first series that led to a one-play touchdown, that's 7 points. Then Sam throws a flare for an interception for a touchdown, that's 14 points. And then they take it the length of the field in a minute 24 right before the half, that's 21 points. And then we miss a field goal. And then we go for 4th and 1 on the goal line and we don't make it. So there's just time after time after time we kicked ourselves in the face. And at the same time, I can show them where we're down 31-7 and had a legitimate chance to win the game at the end. So there's so many positives and concerns in that game that it's an easy game to sell people on, especially on the road. You got to take care of the ball and you got to win in the kicking game. And we've shown them some of that stuff this week just to let them understand that Florida State's very talented and they're getting better every day, but we got to worry about us. We lost the Virginia Tech game and we lost the Georgia Tech game with turnovers. And we didn't last week. We protected the ball, even though we had some sacks and we had some negative tackles for loss. But if we'll just take care of our business, protect the ball, we're punting well, we can get field position, we're playing better on defense. So we're trying to learn, Greg, how to win. And that sounds foolish after 2.5 years, but we're trying to show them here's exactly what happens when you win. And if you lose, there's a lot of similarities in losses. And most games, again, are lost. Now, somebody forced those turnovers. Somebody, we stood there, absolutely stood there and let them run and block the punt untouched. So we just had a mental mistake, and you cannot do those things and win ball games against good athletes.
And on a different topic, I like the big play, bad play phrase with regard to the offense. There's two ways, of course, to look at that. One is it's frustrating that the offense can't be more productive, but there's also the thing, the offense has been pretty productive overall, just not to the standards you want. How do you balance that communication with the players?
Yeah, I've got to be careful because my assistant coach background's on offense. And I get mad and frustrated if we're not just running up and down the field. And that's unfair. And I got it. I mean, I'm worse than any fan. And I'm harder on our coaches than any fan. And here they are, they score 31 points. They rush for 130, 40 yards. They throw for 1,000 and I'm mad. And I told the players, it's all about winning. If we play awful and win, I'm good. I have learned that. And I enjoyed beating Duke. And I thought it was a fun weekend and a great game, but we got to fix a lot of things. And that's what I tell them, Greg, we're good. We want to be great. And you can't be great and have that many sacks and that many tackles for loss. You can't be great unless you can put great games back to back. together. And like defensively, it'll still in question. Will they, being bragged on all week, will they play well on Saturday? And I told them that's just part of this journey. And that's part of the life as a college football player. And it's not you. I mean, look at Georgia Tech playing with so much emotion against us, and then Pitt jumps all over them the next week. This is a hard game to play. And that's why it prepares them so much for life. And that sounds like cliches, but it's really true, is you have to play every day in practice to prepare yourself to play every game. And you can't turn it on and turn it off. And we're still in that position where we've turned it on and turned it off some. And that's why we're inconsistent, and we can't do that. And everybody says, well, why aren't you winning more on the road? When we get more consistent, we'll win more on the road, because everything's amplified on the road. Crowd makes it tougher. Travel makes it tougher. I've always felt like you don't get as many calls on the road. I've always felt like there's more turnovers on the road. So you just have to play better. And that's just a huge part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, C.L. Brown, go ahead.
Hi, Mac. I was curious, in all your years of recruiting Virginia, going back to your first stint in Chapel Hill, when did the 757, when did that kind of become a thing? When did that become like these are the best players that are coming out of the state of Virginia, and Carolina has to get a number of them?
CL, when I got here, I started looking at where we had recruited great players from. And Coach Dooley had great players from the Tidewater. He had great players, not good players. And then Coach Crum had, you got Amos Lawrence, and you start looking at Lawrence Taylor and William Fuller. And I mean, you just start checking that list. Mike Voigt. I mean, there's so many great players from the 757 that came here that we just felt like that was really, really important for us to count the 757 as an in-state recruiting area. It's 2.5 hours away. It's far enough away the players can grow up, but it's close enough that the parents can see them play every game. And then you're going to play Virginia and Virginia Tech every year. So they can get to those games very easily. We're going to play Duke and Wake most years, and State every year. So they can get to more than half of the games very, very easily. So we just felt like it's great football, tremendous athletes. It's close to us, and we have tremendous history there. Again, I haven't even mentioned Dre Bly, and Dre was one of the greatest players we've ever had from that area. So when I got here, I did history. Where have our best players come from? And they were really from North Carolina and the Tidewater, the large majority. And then you get one every now and then from different parts of Virginia. You get one from South Carolina. You'll get 5 from Atlanta because there's so many great academic schools in Atlanta. You may get 1 or 2 every now and then from Florida, just because we've had some great players from Florida that come up this way, but that's just your footprint. So that's when we decided our footprint would be DC to Atlanta. And that's where the large majority of our players would come from. And then if we saw a legacy to our school or a great academic student from a different part other than our legacy or our footprint, we'd go try to get him. But that's how all that started. It was really Coach Dooley.
And what is there anything you can point to? Like, what do you feel like kind of lends to the football culture in that area that produces these great players?
Well, like Charlotte, there's a lot of people. And when you have that many people, you've got more recruits and there's more people to choose from. And traditionally, the people in that area have left the state some. So that gives us a chance. Well, and they're very well coached. So it just makes sense for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Gregory Hall.
Hey, Mac, I wanted to ask you about Chaffee Brown. 4 targets, I think, on over like 111 snaps. Is it a confidence thing with him, similar to what maybe you saw with Antoine Green last year, or just obviously he's being used and played a lot, but the targets aren't there, and obviously not everyone can get the ball as much as a Josh Downs, but just curious what's going on there.
Gregory, he is improving. He's been hurt a lot. like Antoine, and there are some similarities there, and he's starting to get his confidence. The other thing is we've been sacked a lot on deep throws, so it's been harder to get as many deep throws where Sam's got time to take his time and get there. But we need Joffrey more involved, and we need to get him the deep ball more because he's the fastest player on our team. And obviously after 5 games to all of us, Josh Downs is one of the best players in the country. He's catching so many balls that people have to give him so much attention moving forward that we've got to have more production with the outside guys.
So it's less about Chaffee specifically, more than just about the offensive scheme as a whole.
I think maybe not offensive scheme, but we've got to protect better, and he's got to get off bump better, and he's got to catch the ball.
Okay, over to Michael Coe.
And excuse me, Greg, the scheme's there because Diami caught a bunch of the balls that we like for Joffrey to catch. So it's not that, it's just execution.
Right. Execution is a better word than scheme. Thank you.
All right, Michael, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Jordan Travis before. Obviously, he gave you guys a lot of trouble in the first half of the game last year. What is it about him that impresses you the most?
Jordan's a great competitor, and he can run. And man, he keeps fighting. There were times I thought we had him down last year, and all of a sudden I'd turn around and I'm start yelling for the punt team, and here he comes out of the pile. So that's what he does. He just competes. He obviously leads the team very well. They believe in him, and he seems to love to play. But we've had trouble with running quarterbacks, and that's they're going to line up and hit us right in the mouth with that big offensive line. 4 of the 5 guys that did it last year. And then they're going to have with the 2 great backs and Travis, and they've always had great skill outside. They can give you fits.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, Coach, that was our last question in the queue. So appreciate a few minutes this morning.
Thank you. Everybody be safe, and I'll see you Saturday at 3:30.